It's the month of May, and Mari rushes through the streets to catch up with her class. She bumps into strangers but keeps going, determined not to be late. Along the way, she notices a human-like figure with the face and body of a dog. They are called beast folk. Lately, she has been seeing more of them, but with time running out, she focuses on getting to school first. At Yatsunoa High School, the instructor is already making announcements. He informs the class about the arrival of special status students, referring to the beast folk. He briefly explains their origin, stating that they are actually products of a failed experiment from years ago, making them a rare species. There are only about 3,000 of them in existence, all living in one area of Saitama Prefecture. Despite their differences, they are essentially like humans. Many even visit human society, so now they are given the chance to study alongside human students to better understand them. However, one student raises her concern, claiming that beast folk can be violent. The class also grows uneasy at this, but the instructor reassures them that only those who have passed strict government screening procedures are allowed to study with humans. Meanwhile, Marvi arrives at the school gates, but they are already closed. She quickly looks for another way in and spots a boy wearing the same school uniform. She learns that he got lost, which caused him to arrive late as well. To his surprise, Marvi throws her bag over the fence and begins to climb. She encourages him to follow her, offering her hand. Only then does she realize she is actually talking to a beast person. For a brief moment, she is startled, but before she can react further, he takes her hand and proceeds to jump on top of the fence as well. Tsunagu jumps down first while Mari is still processing what just happened, unable to believe she actually spoke to and held a beast person's hand. She recalls the coldness of his hand, but before she can think further, Tsunagu calls out to her from below. Startled, she leaps off the fence and he catches her just in time. Without saying anything else, Tsunagu immediately walks away. When Mari finally reaches class, her friends greet her cheerfully. Thankfully, homeroom isn't over yet. However, she can't focus on anything, as her mind is still replaying the encounter with Tsunagu. She only snaps back to reality when the instructor enters the room again, but this time he is with Tsunagu. It turns out Tsunagu is the special status student the instructor mentioned earlier. He will be joining their class from now on. As he introduces himself, the room fills with whispers of unease. By coincidence, he is also assigned the seat right next to Mari, who remains frozen in shock. As Tsunagu sits down, he tries to greet Mari, while the instructor reminds the class to treat him with respect before continuing with the lesson. Mari, however, can't help but notice how massive Tsunagu is beside her. His broad frame blocks her view of the window completely. Throughout the day, the class still can't stop talking about him. Because of this, Mari grows increasingly annoyed. Even the students from other classes crowd outside their classroom just to catch a glimpse of Tsunagu. She tries to act indifferent, but the noise is distracting her. Then she suddenly remembers that she hasn't thanked him yet for catching her earlier. Just as she's about to speak, a classmate starts pestering Tsunagu, asking absurd questions about the nature of beast folk. The situation grows uncomfortable, so Yukihiro steps in to stop the behavior, even scolding him for being insensitive. They quickly apologize, and to everyone's surprise, Tsunagu stays calm. He even answers some of the earlier questions with patience. Because of this, Yukihiro immediately snaps at him, scolding him for being so casual and not showing any anger. Yukihiro then formally introduces himself, but Tsunagu only gives a brief reply. As their conversation continues, Mari completely loses the chance to thank him, so she turns away and heads over to her friends who have been calling her. As the day goes on, Mari notices Tsunagu's quiet nature, which only makes her more curious about him. On her way home, she reflects on how normal and repetitive her life has always been, following the same routine day after day, until Tsunagu's arrival suddenly changed the view from her window. Lost in thought, she happens to spot him on the road. A group of guys is standing in front of him, blocking his way. They mock him openly, refusing to let him pass. Though he clearly just wants to go home, their relentless teasing continues. Instead of reacting violently as they expect, Tsunagu calmly steps onto the bridge railing and walks along it to get past them. But just as he's about to step off the railing, Mari accidentally blocks his path. Startled, he loses his balance and tumbles into the river below. The guys panic and flee the scene. Mari runs down toward the riverbank, blaming herself for Tsunagu's fall. Minutes pass and she still doesn't see him resurface, so she assumes beast folk can't swim. Without hesitation, she throws off her backpack and dives into the water to save him. But before she even reaches him, Tsunagu manages to climb out on his own. Once on land, Tsunagu realizes Marvi jumped in to rescue him, thinking his fall was her fault. He isn't upset, but he is clearly more concerned about her risking her life for him. As they talk, Marvi finally gets the chance to thank him for catching her earlier that day. To her surprise, Tsunagu's tail begins to wag uncontrollably like a dog. He admits he isn't used to receiving gratitude from humans, so he becomes flustered. When asked about the earlier incident, Tsunagu explains that he tries to stay composed when people mock him because if he loses control, they'll only see him as a monster. He doesn't want that, so he chooses patience. Just as he finishes and is about to leave, he suddenly sneezes in front of Mari. With this, Mari brings Tsunagu home with her and explains the situation to her mother. At first, her mom feels uneasy about having a beast person in the house, but she eventually agrees to accommodate him. As they enter, Mari and her mom quietly discuss Tsunagu. However, their concerns ease when they see him innocently playing with their pet dog. Marvin notices how gentle and sensitive he seems, even more so than most humans. Later, as Tsunagu prepares to take off his uniform, Marvi suddenly barges in. When she realizes he hasn't taken off his uniform yet, she's about to leave, but to her shock, Tsunagu casually strips right in front of her, exposing his half-naked body. Flustered, Mari washes his clothes, but her eyes can't help but notice his physique. Though covered in fur, his body is quite ripped. When she fails to reach for the detergent on the top shelf, Tsunagu immediately steps in to help. They end up standing very close and their noses accidentally touch, creating an awkward moment. With that, Marvi quickly excuses herself, leaving Tsunagu alone to take a shower. Both Tsunagu and Marvi are unsettled by the moment their noses touch. Nonetheless, both of them have their hearts pounding like crazy because of that interaction. The next day, Marvi runs around with her pet dog, Yuki. After a while, they take a break and stop on their track. She cuddles Yuki in her arms, and when the dog's snout accidentally brushes her nose, she's instantly reminded of her encounter with Tsunagu from yesterday. Meanwhile, Tsunagu is also heading to school when one of his beast folk friends catches up to him, and soon more of them gather. They proceed to ask how school is going and check on him. He insists no one is bullying him, but they don't believe him. Surrounded by more of his kind, he finally snaps, telling them he has made up his mind about attending school for the next 3 years and doesn't need to be babied. After that, he walks away, shows his ID to the guards, and they open the gate, allowing him to leave for school. That day, during PE, the class plays basketball together, and Tsunagu proves to be exceptionally skilled. After the game, his classmates can't help but praise him, and even his teammates invite him to join the basketball team. However, beast folk are not allowed to participate in official school sports. Meanwhile, Mari is watching him from the sidelines and can't take her eyes off him at all. Just by seeing his form, she's already burning up, and her friends immediately notice her flustered expression. They suspect she's curious about him, though she tries to deny it. Their conversation gets cut short when the coach whistles to settle everyone down. Apparently, the opposing team lost, so they are furious after Tsunagu scored too many points against them, and they start talking badly about him. After that, as the other students begin to leave, Marvi stays behind to return some equipment. At the same time, Tsunagu happens to do the same. They end up casually talking about the previous day while walking into the storage room. Mari also mentions his basketball skills, and his ears twitch in embarrassment, which only makes her find him even more adorable. While she's lost in thought, a pile of sports equipment suddenly starts to fall toward her, and the storage room door slams shut. It turns out the opposing team from earlier is seeking revenge for their loss against Tsunagu, so they lock the two inside, leaving them trapped. Back in the classroom, a few students notice Tsunagu's absence and begin to wonder why he's late. At the same time, the boys who trapped them arrive to report to their accomplice. They laugh among themselves, even planning to throw away Tsunagu's textbooks while he's gone. In the storage room, Tsunagu quickly jumps in front of Mari, shielding her from the falling equipment. A support pole grazes his hand, but he ignores the pain and checks if she's alright. He then tries to open the door, only to confirm that the boys really did trap them inside. Concerned, Mari takes a handkerchief from her pocket and gently wraps it around his injured hand. While doing so, she notices once again how cold his hand is. Tsunagu explains that it's usually warm, but it gets cold at school because he feels nervous. As she tends to him, his tail starts wagging again. He admits he isn't used to being treated kindly since beast folk cities don't have hospitals or doctors for minor cases, and only those who are very sick are seen by professionals. This is why Tsunagu dreams of becoming a doctor. Yet, when he finally gets the chance to study, humans tend to bully him despite him doing nothing wrong. At this point, Mari feels pity for Tsunagu, so she gently holds his hand. She truly wants to help him. She explains that if he's always anxious, it might affect his studies, so she offers to help, even if it's just by keeping his hands warm. She wants to do this because she considers him her friend. But the moment she says it, she hurriedly tries to make excuses, but in her fluster, she steps on the pole and slips. Fortunately, Tsunagu reacts quickly and catches her. Now they're suddenly very close, and Mari can feel his fur against her skin. Hearing Mari call him a friend deeply touches Tsunagu. Mari tries to hold his hand once again, but now it's not as cold. Then something seems to get into Tsunagu. He starts sniffing around Mari, recognizing the sweet scent he also smelled from earlier. He comes closer and starts growling because of this. Then he starts sniffing her neck until Mari is completely slumped onto the floor. Tsunagu seems unable to control himself. Marve is terrified, but he is so strong that she cannot move. His growling also intensifies, so she braces herself, afraid he will eat her alive. Tsunagu snaps back to reality when Yukihiro calls out from outside the door. He tries to move it, but it's jammed, and Yukihiro's persistent voice finally brings Tsunagu to his senses, causing him to release Mari at last. Mari exhales heavily while Tsunagu wags his tail uncontrollably and bites his own arm while trembling. Seeing the blood, Mari rushes to check on him, but he stops her, only apologizing for frightening her earlier. Moments later, Yukihiro manages to force the door open, only to freeze at the sight of Mari being there as well. Without saying much, Tsunagu walks past him, thanking Yukihiro before leaving quietly. Mari remains, still shaken by what happened. For a moment, it truly felt like Tsunagu had become a beast, but deep down, the touch of his skin and tongue didn't unsettle her at all. Back in the classroom, Tsunagu sits slumped on the floor, still trying to calm himself after what happened. That sweet scent had overwhelmed him, driving him to lose control and act on impulses he couldn't fully understand. The pleasure he felt was frightening, and he knew he shouldn't have such emotions. Staring at his bleeding hand, Tsunagu reflects on how Mari had still tried to help him, caring more about his injury than her own safety. Meanwhile, as Yukihiro walks beside Mari, he notices her unusual silence and asks what happened inside the room. Though Yukihiro trusts that Tsunagu wouldn't harm anyone, the situation still worries him. With this, Mari quickly assures him that nothing bad happened, claiming her heart is just racing. After seeing Tsunagu in such a condition, she can no longer speak for him. So what she tells Yukihiro instead are her own feelings, admitting that Tsunagu might have already stolen her heart. To her surprise, Yukihiro doesn't overreact at all. In fact, he says it's a good thing. He then apologizes for making her admit her feelings so suddenly about Tsunagu. While Mari is still trying to compose herself, they suddenly spot Ochi and his companions outside, once again making a mess of Tsunagu's belongings. They're even betting on who can throw his textbooks the farthest. But before they can even act, Yukihiro jumps straight out the window and yells at them to stop. He confronts the group, demanding they apologize to Tsunagu for locking him in the storage room earlier. But Ochi and his friends are defiant. At that moment, Mari also jumps down to join Yukihiro. Ochi sneers at them, asking why they're taking Tsunagu's side. He argues that Tsunagu's varied presence disrupts the class's balance. Though his intelligence matches humans, his physical abilities far exceed theirs, which is exactly why they despise him. However, Yukihiro doesn't understand their fears at all. To him, having Tsunagu around makes life far more interesting, and even Mari agrees with this. Ever since Tsunagu arrived, her repetitive routine has changed completely. The thought excites her, as she feels she's changing too. Hearing this, Ochi glares at them and threatens that if they keep defending Tsunagu, they'll be treated the same way. He claims that once Tsunagu realizes how weak humans are, he'll end up eating them alive, which is why they have to get rid of him. With that, Ochi hurls one of Tsunagu's books toward the fence, but Mari leaps up and catches it midair while landing on top of the fence. Everyone is stunned by her sudden move, but the others start throwing more of Tsunagu's belongings. With only Mari and Yukihiro trying to stop them, it seems hopeless until Tsunagu appears, stepping in front of Mari and shielding her from the flying books. Tsunagu jumps down from the fence and walks straight toward Ochi. Ochi mocks him fearlessly, but Tsunagu corners him, threatening him with his growl. Even then, Ochi keeps provoking him until Tsunagu snaps back, telling him not to blame his own weakness on a beast folk. His words strike Ochi silent. Trying to play it off, Ochi shrugs and pretends to be bored before walking away, while his companions trail behind him. Yukihiro immediately praises Tsunagu for standing up for himself, but Tsunagu scolds them instead. He doesn't want them putting themselves in danger because of him, especially when he isn't around to protect them. Still, Mari steps forward to return his books, saying they're filled with his future, so she's glad she could protect them. More than that, she's happy she could do something meaningful for him beyond just warming his hands. With that, Tsunagu accepts the books and Yukihiro wraps his arm around Tsunagu's neck, assuring him that for the next 3 years, he'll always be there to defend him no matter what. Hearing those words, Tsunagu can't help but lift Yukihiro onto his back, carrying him with ease to express his joy. The two start teasing each other playfully, laughing together while Mari can only watch from the side, getting a bit jealous as Yukihiro touches Tsunagu's soft, fluffy fur. Tsunagu admits that among all the humans he's met, he considers Yukihiro and Mari the best. Mari, however, insists that there are plenty of humans who think like them. Hearing this, Yukihiro suddenly comes up with a plan, which is to show everyone how harmless Tsunagu really is so he can enjoy school like a normal student. Mari is thrilled with the idea, even though Tsunagu hasn't agreed with them yet. Still, faced with their eager eyes, he can't bring himself to refuse. As they start planning, Tsunagu insists on excluding Mari. Yukihiro is confused at first, But Tsunagu shows him the wound on his arm and recalls the incident in the storage room, admitting that he can't be around Mari safely. His words leave Mari heartbroken. Later in class, someone tosses a crumpled piece of paper toward Mari. When she opens it, it's a doodle of her and Tsunagu from Yukihiro. But even then, Mari can't stop thinking about Tsunagu's words. It pains her to know she might not be able to stay close to him anymore. After class, they head straight to Yukihiro's house to talk about Tsunagu's problem with Mari. As they settle in, two curious kids peek through the doorway, trying to get a glimpse of Tsunagu. The moment his gaze meets theirs, they yelp in surprise, and Yukihiro quickly shoos them away before shutting the door. Finally, Tsunagu opens up. He tells them about the Forbidden Moon, also known as the Beast Folks mating season, which usually occurs between March and April, which is why their school year starts in May. During this time, beast folk experience symptoms including uncontrollable impulses, and even medicine can't suppress them, so it's something they must endure their whole lives. Yukihiro immediately connects this to what happened in the storage room, but Tsunagu shakes his head. He explains that he has never felt such impulses before. Since he's half human and half beast folk, he suspects his nature may be different. There's never been a recorded case of a product of a human and a beast folk, so they kept it secret. Mari can't help but find his story quite fascinating. With that, Yukihiro grows even more confused about what Tsunagu's real problem could be. Finally, Tsunagu confesses to pushing and pinning Mari down in the storage room and even reveals that he wanted to do more. Though he hasn't experienced the effects of the Forbidden Moon, he knows her scent makes him lose control, and he still doesn't know how to restrain himself. That's why he believes it's best to stay away from her to avoid hurting her again. While the two continue talking, Mari falls deep into thought, realizing that despite everything, she's relieved that Tsunagu's actions were only from instincts he couldn't control. Then, Yukihiro suddenly insists they should reenact the storage room scene, so he steps out and locks the door from the outside, leaving only Tsunagu and Mari trapped inside together. Tsunagu immediately panics, trying to talk to him and open the door, but it's sealed tight. Surprisingly, Mari agrees with Yukihiro's plan. After all, it could have been a one-time mistake. Mari decides they need to assess Tsunagu so they know where to draw the line between them. At that moment, Yukihiro finally understands that Mari truly wants to be with Tsunagu, otherwise she wouldn't have said he stole her heart. Suddenly, a loud thump comes from inside. It turns out Tsunagu has already pinned Mari against the door. He scares her off by saying that he might crush and eat her alive, but Mari does not give up so easily, so Tsunagu releases her, moved by how willingly she wants to help. Yukihiro grows anxious as well, and Tsunagu instructs him that if he ever hears him start to growl, he should stop him immediately. With that, the two inside begin their experiment. They start with a simple handshake, holding each other's hands for quite some time, but Tsunagu remains calm and composed, showing no signs of losing control. Seeing this, Mari suggests they try something else. Perhaps he could touch her head instead. Inside, Mari's heartbeat races. Tsunagu's hand is warm, yet he starts struggling to remain calm. Suddenly, she asks if she can touch him too, and he agrees. As soon as her fingers brush against his fluffy fur, she's instantly captivated. She accidentally tickles him, making them both flinch. Tsunagu admits that he can still smell the faint sweetness of her scent, but it's weaker now, and he can still control himself. With this, Tsunagu's trembling hand reaches to touch her neck. Mari stiffens at this, but she doesn't move away. His hand grows warmer as he pets her gently, until he suddenly starts trembling uncontrollably. Tsunagu feels off even when he's just behaving normally, so he lets go of Mari. But as soon as he lets go, he grabs her aggressively once again, embracing her in his arms. Deep down, Mari knows she loves Tsunagu now, but then Tsunagu starts growling. He pins Mari down on the bed and starts sniffing around her. Mari tries her best to calm down, thinking Tsunagu will be able to control himself, but the growling only intensifies. Hearing this, Yukihiro is about to open the door, but the sound Tsunagu is making scares the kids, so they try to stop him from going in. Inside, Tsunagu is already starting to tear at Mari's uniform, while Mari tries to think what might have caused his behavior, suspecting that maybe it's because she got too drawn to him. Soon, Tsunagu is smelling her entire body and biting it gently. He smells the scent growing sweeter. Looking at her, Tsunagu feels torn as he doesn't want to hurt Mari, yet he can't suppress his growing desire either. He keeps sniffing around her, and Mari realizes how things might end if this continues, so she quickly acts, pushing Tsunagu away. She calls out to him, pleading for him to calm down and reassuring him that he can restrain himself until her voice finally reaches him, and Tsunagu regains control. Just then, Yukihiro also bursts through the door, finding Mari covering herself with Tsunagu's coat while Tsunagu faces the wall, clearly distressed. Yukihiro hurriedly asks if they figured out what triggers his reaction, but Tsunagu scolds him for being so late, prompting an apologetic bow from him. Afterward, Yukihiro checks on both of them. Mari recalls what happened and explains that Tsunagu tried his best to fight his instincts. Regardless, they conclude that as long as they keep a safe distance and communicate normally, nothing serious should occur. But deep down, Mari knows his symptoms are bound to resurface no matter what. When asked if they can still be a trio, Tsunagu hesitates, afraid he might hurt Mari again. Still recalling Mari's words to him, he begins to hope that he can learn to control himself. Though he doesn't want to risk putting Mari in danger, he also refuses to run away from her, so they agree to continue spending time together at school. However, Tsunagu sternly warns Yukihiro not to pull such a dangerous stunt again. That night, while taking a bath, Mari can't help but wonder if she's truly the reason Tsunagu keeps losing control. She considers whether it might be her voice or her attitude that triggers him. Yet every time she thinks of him, her heart stirs and her cheeks grow warm. Forcing herself to calm down, Mari reminds herself not to let her emotions show, otherwise Tsunagu might end up suffering again. When she steps out of the bath, she overhears her father talking about the increasing number of beast folk in his workplace. Her mother immediately comes to their defense, but Mari stays quiet. She opens the fridge, grabs a drink, and retreats to her room. Lying on her bed, her thoughts circle endlessly around Tsunagu. There aren't many human establishments that allow beast folk to work. It almost feels as if they belong to a different world. Mari wonders if being in a relationship with one would be seen the same way. Though beast folk think and feel like humans, their instincts are different. So Mari convinces herself that falling in love with one must be unacceptable. Just then, her phone beeps. It's a message from their trio's group chat. Yukihiro invites them to lunch tomorrow, and Tsunagu quickly confirms. Mari's heart skips a beat at the sight of his reply. Gathering her courage, she decides to send Tsunagu a private message instead of replying in the group. It's a simple goodnight, but her fingers tremble as she presses send. At that moment, Tsunagu is studying when her message appears on his screen. The single word makes his tail wag uncontrollably. It's only been a few days since he left the walls, yet so much has already changed. Glancing around his room, he blushes as memories of Mari surface. Her voice, her concern, the way she helps him regain control whenever he loses composure. Still, he reminds himself that she's human, and he must not forget that. The next day in class, Ayano drops her notebook, and Mari quickly picks it up for her. She's about to start a conversation when Ritsuka arrives, holding a muffin and inviting them to share it. But Mari already has plans. Yukihiro is calling her from across the room for their lunch together. When Mari turns to her friends, they're already eating, watching her suspiciously. She tries to invite them to eat on the rooftop, but they refuse, saying they don't want to be around Tsunagu. Still, Ritsuka hands her a bag of muffins to take along. Surprisingly, they don't seem angry about her spending time with him, just curious about why she's so interested. Ritsuka even teases her, asking for all the romantic details. Flustered, Mari denies it and quickly walks away. Once she's gone, Ritsuka sighs, uneasy about Mari's behavior. Ayano shrugs it off and hands Ritsuka her notebook, asking her to read the story she wrote. Ritsuka teases her for still writing by hand, making Ayano snatch it back. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, the trio discusses how Tsunagu can better integrate into their class. It's not something that can happen overnight, so they decide to take it slow. Tsunagu seems uncertain about such a simple plan, but Yukihiro lightens the mood by joking that he could push Tsunagu around school in a cart, an idea Tsunagu immediately rejects. As the two banter, Mari finds her gaze drifting towards Tsunagu. She can't help but admire his features, wondering how he manages to eat so neatly despite his sharp teeth. When he suddenly looks up and catches her staring, Mari quickly averts her eyes, insisting it's nothing. Later, as they share their food, Yukihiro groans in frustration. He's struggling with a lesson he can't grasp. With the proficiency test coming up, failure could cost him his spot in the sports club. To their surprise, Tsunagu understands the material easily, so he spends the rest of the break patiently tutoring both Yukihiro and Mari. That's when they realize just how intelligent he truly is. When the test day arrives, the class focuses intently on their papers. Once the results are posted, everyone rushes to the bulletin board, and to everyone's surprise, Tsunagu takes the top spot. Both Yukihiro and Mari are stunned. Yukihiro manages to pass, and Mari's rank improves thanks to Tsunagu's tutoring. Watching from a distance, Aochi hisses in frustration and storms off. Meanwhile, Ayano, usually the top student, finds herself in second place. When Mari approaches to congratulate her, Ayano shoves her hand away. In a bitter voice, she mutters that beast folk should just disappear. Mari freezes as Ayano turns and walks off, leaving her and Yukihiro speechless. Later on the rooftop, the trio meets for lunch again. When Yukihiro and Mari congratulate Tsunagu, he tilts his head in confusion, unaware of what they mean. They realize he hasn't even checked the results yet. At the same time, Ritsuka stands before the bulletin board staring at Ayano's name, one spot below the top. Concern flashes across her face as she recalls their childhood. Back in elementary school, Ayano's mother always praised her for being number one, though Ayano never cared about grades, only about writing stories. But her mother never acknowledged that side of her, valuing academic success above all. Ritsuko was the first to ever show interest in her stories, and that moment had changed everything. Snapping back to the present, Ritsuko tries to call Ayano, but her phone lies forgotten on her desk. Downstairs, Mari leads Tsunagu and Yukihiro to the bulletin board so he can see his rank. Contrary to Mari's excitement, Tsunagu remains calm and unreadable. He doesn't seem to care at all. Just then, Ritsuko rushes up, asking if they've seen Ayano. None of them has, though Mari recalls how strange Ayano seemed earlier. Concerned, Ritsuko hands Ayano's phone to Tsunagu, pleading for him to track her scent because she says he's the reason Ayano disappeared. Tsunagu looks puzzled, so Ritsuko explains that Ayano might have run off because he took the top spot. Meanwhile, Ayano stands on the rooftop, climbing the wired fence. She's always dreamed of becoming a novelist, but her parents only allowed it as long as she remained number one in class. Now that she's second, that fragile permission is gone. Realizing this, Ritsuko fears the worst. Mari tries to defend Tsunagu, but Ritsuko's panic only grows. Desperate to help, Tsunagu finally agrees. He sniffs Ayano's phone and follows her scent up to the rooftop. When they arrive, they find Ayano standing on top of the fence. Ritsuko runs forward, tears in her eyes, wrapping her arms around her in fear. But Ayano isn't planning to jump. She's throwing her notebooks away, saying that since she's no longer allowed to write, there's no reason to keep them. Shaking with relief and anger, Ritsuko yells that she still hasn't finished reading Ayano's latest story. The two argue, and Mari spots one of the notebooks stuck on a ledge below. She points it out, and Tsunagu offers to retrieve it. Mari hesitates, unsure how Ayano will react, but she finally agrees. After all, Ayano never stopped writing despite everything, and Mari wants to read her stories too. Without hesitation, Tsunagu climbs over the fence, leaps down, and retrieves the fallen notebook. Holding it out to Ayano, he asks if he can read it as well. Later that day in the art room, the group carefully mends the torn pages together. As they read, they discover it's a mystery novel, and they become absorbed in the story. Watching them, Ayano's eyes well up. Finally, she apologizes for what she said about beast folk. Ritsuko bows her head too, regretting that she wasn't more understanding. Ayano admits she only said those hurtful things out of fear that her parents would stop her from writing altogether. Hearing this, Tsunagu gently tells her to ignore the voices that deny her and listen instead to those that believe in her friends. As he speaks, Tsunagu's tail brushes lightly against Mari, making her blush as she realizes she may be helping him more than she thought. Ritsuko nods in agreement, saying she loves Ayano's stories and doesn't want her to waste her talent. She even jokes about helping her convince her strict parents. Moved by their support, Ayano finally understands how much her friends value her and her passion. When Tsunagu and Mari prepare to leave, Ritsuko thanks them again. Mari proudly praises Tsunagu and Ritsuko agrees, calling him amazing. Mari secretly feels happy. After all, her goal has always been to show everyone that Tsunagu is a good person. But Ritsuko's grin turns mischievous as she teases Mari for acting so nervous around him. Mari denies it, flustered, while Tsunagu looks on in confusion. As they walk off, Ritsuko leans close and whispers to Mari that she should just ask him out already. As the day ends, Mari walks home beside Yukihiro, telling him everything that happened at lunch. A flicker of disappointment crosses his face when he realizes he wasn't part of it. Pretending to sulk, he sighs dramatically, but Mari reassures him that it was all possible because of his idea, making him smile again. Feeling flustered, Yukihiro pats her head out of habit, then freezes. Realizing what he's done, he stammers that he's just used to doing that for his little brothers. Mari laughs, and for a moment, he wants to say something but holds back. Instead, he picks up the trash, saying he'll take it out before heading to practice. As she watches him leave, Mari can't help but wonder what he's hiding. It's not the first time he stopped himself mid-sentence, and she grows curious about what he truly wants to say, unaware that the only question in Yukihiro's mind is whether she likes Tsunagu. On her way home, Mari spots Tsunagu waiting outside. He's been standing there to walk her home. As they stroll down the street, Tsunagu mentions his recent checkup. Nothing unusual, except that he remains unaffected by the forbidden moon. Still, he must learn to control his emotions. When the light turns red, they stop at the crossing. Mari feels a pang of sympathy for him, but Tsunagu admits he already expected this once he began feeling drawn to someone, and he's glad that person happens to be Mari. His words make her heart flutter. Suddenly, it begins to rain. Mari realizes Tsunagu is shielding her with his body. She tries to step aside so he won't get soaked, but he moves even closer. Mari freezes, overwhelmed by his closeness, struggling to hide her emotions. Suvan bystanders begin whispering, assuming she's being harassed by a beast folk. Mari quickly takes Tsunagu's hand to show she's not in danger. When the light turns green, she gently pulls him forward, urging him to stay confident they're not doing anything wrong. As they walk, Marvi realizes how deeply attached she's become to him, though part of her still wonders if she should allow these feelings to grow. When it's time to part ways, she remembers Ritsuka's advice and gathers her courage. With a pounding heart, she asks Tsunagu if they can go out on Saturday. Tsunagu's face brightens. He thinks it's a great idea, but casually adds that the three of them can go together, leaving Marty stunned. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every week.